Darren Buchanan, pulls his groin. He's out for like 6-7 games, and now we're really struggling. And so it was difficult to get through that year.
What have you learned being a head coach?
Yeah, I felt very well prepared. I was an assistant coach for 20 years, and I did every job. For the most part, the effort you give to get in a stance, the effort you give to, sprint to space when you don't. Obviously, shooting is so important, right? If you cannot shoot, you cannot play, right? But again, those are the obvious. Yeah. Those are the obvious things, right? UConn in Hawaii, obviously everyone knows how good those programs are, how good those coaches are, how good those teams are. They're,
young man, young woman, very enthusiastic. Really wants to get into the coaching game. What kind of advice would you give them?
They've been putting people in college and getting them college degrees for many, many, many years, and now are they going to be told, hey, you have to pay these people? Like, well, we don't have the money. Screw it. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do anything. We'll go to Division III. You see, St. Francis, PA, so guys in all rookie teams. So we've played freshmen. Now we'll play the best players, and we look to develop players and give them a chance and bring them.
Who you with?
Game related.
Stay game related, man.
My man. Stay game related, man.
Stay game related, y'all.
Stay game related, man.
Stay game related.
Stay game related.
Stay game related, man. The best in the business.
Stay game related. You gotta stay here locked in.
When you make it in life, you always want to give back. Yeah. Same what you doing right now. These kids
have faith, believe in God.
Cool.
Just put that work in.
Stay game related, man.
Stay game related, man. Listen, game related for sure.
My man.
Yeah, stay game related, y'all.
So stay game related.
Stay game related.
Stay game related. Game related. Stay game related.
Stay game related.
All right, stay game related.
Stay game related. Stay game related.
My man.
Stay game related.
Stay game related.
All right. Stay game related, man.
Stay game related.
Stay game related.
Stay game related.
All right, my man.
Stay game related. Stay game related.
Yeah.
Stay game related.
My man.
Stay game related.
My man.
Y'all better stay game related.
When the whole world be waiting for you, but if you want some local shit, you won't even know.
Welcome to Game Related, where we highlight opportunities and obstacles from former athletes with the thought process of giving future generations a better understanding about the game.
These conversations are meant to bring awareness to the hardships and opportunities that come along with the game. Let's get game related.
All right, y'all, we back with another episode. As y'all can see, we are in the Charles Smith Arena. We got our guy Chris Caputo in the building. Really excited about this one because Chris has worked his way up the ranks. I mean, you started off as a Dobo, right?
Yeah, they didn't trust me with any of the Dobo activities. They were too important. So I was kind of like video administrative assistant, make up your own job. That was my job for early on.
There you go. So he started there, then worked his way up to being an assistant coach. Obviously was with the Final Four run with George Mason. Then moved up to another assistant, associate head coach, and now he's running the program at GW, man. So excited to have him on, man. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for having me. I remember when you guys were in high school. I don't look that
no, you
that
don't.
old. I looked old when I was young. Now I look a little bit younger when I'm old, but believe it or not, what year of high school were you guys?
03, 04.
Yep. 04. So you graduated 04.
He graduated.
And you were 03. So like when I got here, 2002, to George Mason as a volunteer for Coach Larinaga, one of the jobs that again, kind of make up your own job, and they say, okay, you're underclassman recruiting coordinator, and as you know, there were great players in the area. There always has been.
I'm gonna be like, why you ain't recruiting me?
There always well, but it was funny. It was like back then it was letters.
Yeah.
Lists, letters. So yeah, I remember. I'm sure I mailed you guys a bunch of letters back then. You might have those George Mason letters in your shoebox somewhere.
I'm gonna check it out. Man. So then let's get into the season, man.
Yeah.
I thought that you guys had a better year than you did the year before.
Yeah.
Right. I felt like there was some progress, but you couldn't. Obviously, A10 is a one bid school, so you didn't get there.
Well,
but what went well? What did you learn, and what did you feel like you could have done better?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of history about our program. I was here when GW was having great success. Top 10 in the country, multiple NCAA tournaments. But really from 1991 to 2016, 25 years, GW was a really good program. Multiple NCAA tournaments, NIT champions, Sweet 16, top 10 in the country, as I said, multiple guys playing the NBA, really considered like a really, really good upper mid, whatever you want to call that program. And, and then for different reasons, and it's all been documented, it's not one person's fault or anything like that, just had fallen on hard times. And, when I came here in 2022, hadn't had a winning season since 2017. Hadn't been to a postseason since 2017. Not the NIT, the NCAA tournament since 2016. Hadn't had a winning record in the Atlantic 10 in 6 years. My first year inherited a pretty nice group of older players that we wound up having a winning record in the league. I thought that was a good step. Brendan Adams, Ricky Lindo, 2 seniors in that team, Baltimore, DC guys, great guys. And then James Bishop had a great year from Baltimore. And then the next year we had, in this environment, in that time, immediate eligibility transfers, NIL, all the stuff is happening. And we're having to figure out a way to kind of get ourselves up to speed and get a new president at the time who's really been supportive of us. And so I got 9 new guys. I only had 2 guys that had played any significant amount of minutes in college basketball. We start out 14-3. We win at VCU. We beat George Mason here pretty soundly. And I knew we were one of the 10 youngest teams in the country or whatever. I think we're 3rd most freshman minutes in the country. And I kind of knew, hey, this isn't real. We're gonna run into some roadblocks here. Right. But then Garrett Johnson gets hurt. Another kid from the area, from Oakton, Virginia, played with Takeover. Obviously been through a lot with his medical, as has been well documented. So then Darren Buchanan, pulls his groin. He's out for 6-7 games, and now we're really struggling. And so it was difficult to get through that year, but get into the summer, got some high hopes. Garrett tears his ACL. And I'm like, man, we're just a little snake bitten here. We were on January 15th, I'm looking back and saying, man, we were 25-11 from the start of A10 play the year before till January 15th with some really good wins. We had beat Dayton, we had beat VCU, we had beat Mason a couple times. We had won at Bonaventure. We had some great wins. And but the staff, I think, did a great job. The support that came from campus was really, really good. And even with Garrett's injury, and I thought Garrett would be one of the best players in the league, to be honest. He was averaging 14-6 and 40% from 3, when he got hurt. We wound up having a good year. First time to 20 wins since 17 or 16. Postseason, played in the college basketball crown, had a 500 record in the league, and so I was happy with the year. I thought we started. Maybe we were a little bit ahead of schedule the year before, and maybe we're right on schedule now with what we need to do. And then the good part is we were able to retain, the key players in the program. And we had some guys leave, and love those guys, and they did a great job for us. But the most productive guys are now sort of we're able to come back, and then we're able to add to that. And so now we've got a little bit of expectations here for the first time in quite some time. So that's fun. You want to be in that situation, right? You want to be in a situation where people expect you to have a decent year and all that. So we feel good about where we're at.
Nah, I thought, like I said, y'all played Mason really good in the conference tournament.
Yeah, they played great in the second half. They were. It was like a buzzsaw. They were awesome.
Yeah.
What's funny is our other 2 games were there. Rafael Castro's got 2 free throws. He makes one of them with 0.8 left or whatever. We win the game. Here, they had led the whole game. We come back, take a lead with, I think, 30 seconds left or something. Had 2 free throws to tie it, and we couldn't do it. And then at halftime, these are 2 of the best defensive teams in the league. Our games have been like rock fights, especially the one here was the score was 19-11 at half. Some crazy score. Yeah, and then at halftime at Cap One, it was like 42-38, and I was like, man, this is like, I said on the TV, that halftime they interviewed the coach whose team's in the lead. I'm like, this is like super uncharacteristic. And then they came out with tremendous energy, and they were a great team. Like, I very proud of Tony and his group. The way that the metrics have changed, right? Just so everybody understands, like, they were an NCAA tournament team. When you're at 26 in the RPI, we were at George Mason. We got 2 at-large bids in and around that RPI. They just don't go by the RPI anymore. They go by the net, and then that the numbers they're skewed in my opinion. So
explain the net and the RPI.
So you have predictive measures versus results-based. So the net is a predictive measure, and when that changed in 2019, it did change, some of the ability for the schools outside of the Power Four to get in the tournament based on the numbers. And again, for us this year, we were this is the best net we've ever had. It's the highest Ken Palm rating we've had in 10 years. So all those metrics for us were great. But it's just a different. It's not the same tournament when you're going by different.
Right.
So we're in favor of expansion, and our league's in favor. Everyone's. I think there's some media members that are like, no, it's perfect the way it is, and I'm saying, well, it isn't the way it is. It's different than it was because of the way the teams are being judged. So, in any case. We feel like the league is elevating. Every year I've been here, it's gotten better and better. So I feel pretty good about where we could be going forward.
Now, the A10, I feel like definitely should be at least a 2-team bid, easy. Maybe 3.
It's been multiple bids for the most part for 40 years. Right. And so we got to get back to that. Now, again, I think we have the look, the one thing I would tell you about our league, and I know this gets out there to a lot of people so they see it, and my second year in the league, like, Duquesne and Dayton won a game in the NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. They didn't win our regular season.
Right.
So like, it's not, we have a depth of teams in this league that could go into postseason play and have success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So speaking of the A10, I want to jump back. Actually, this is your first tenure being a head coach, right? Like, what have you learned being a head coach?
Yeah. I felt very well prepared. I was an assistant coach for 20 years, and I did every job, for the most part, within a program. When you start as a grunt, volunteer assistant coach, and you work your way, to become an assistant coach, to become an assistant coach in the ACC, to become an associate head coach, and then eventually, head coach. And you do it at 2 different programs, but both of those programs, I went to the Elite 8 my last year at Miami, then the following year they went to the Final Four. So 2 programs went to the Final Fours in 2 different type of leagues, the Colonial at George Mason at the time, and then the ACC. You really get a great feel for what it's like to be, especially working for Coach Larinaga, who really let you in to understanding, hey, this is my thought process here. This is what I'm doing today. This is what I have to look at here. Here's what we got to be concerned with. He really involved us in a lot. It was more than just, hey, go do 2 scouts and go do X amount of scouts and go recruit 2 players. Like, he made us, really see what the world was like from his seat, which I think really well prepared me. I think, and so people would say, well, what do you learn? I said, well, the difference, what I learned is that a lot of that stuff, while still very relevant, there were things that we were going to have to deal with in 2022 and beyond now.
It's way different.
It's just completely different. Yeah. So immediate eligibility transfers, NIL, revenue share, the fundraising piece, like all those things in this environment when this many guys are, like, the way you build rosters is the most important thing in many ways in college basketball. The way we built rosters at 2 different schools that led us to Final Four level play, not relevant. Yeah. Not relevant in this environment. So, you got to learn on the fly a little bit, and you make mistakes, for sure. Yeah. And you hope that the mistakes don't kill you. And then if you're getting things right, you're hoping, well, can I replicate that, or is that just a one-off? So I think there's a lot to learn. The one thing I learned, and I feel really good about the staff I have, is that you can make a lot of mistakes, but if you have the right staff, they can really make up for you and your weaknesses.
Yeah.
And they can help you bring in the right players, because obviously the players are the most important thing. You can establish a culture all you want, but if you don't have people who are willing to live in that culture, right, you got to find the right people for that. And so the staff's hopeful. Like, my thing is the players are going to change hands a lot. Used to be in college basketball, the staffs would change a lot, and the players would be somewhat consistently in place.
Yeah.
I think to be successful, you definitely got to keep your staff as best you can in place, because the players, even for us who bring back 6 guys, it still means we got 7 new ones. Right, back in the day, like when you guys were playing, if your team had 7 new guys, you were like, something happened. If you got 7 new guys now, it's like, oh man, you guys retained a lot. Like, you did great. So
that is crazy.
It's a different world. It's a different world.
So man, let's get into the recruiting side.
Sure.
Right. We had a couple questions that popped up. What stands out to you from a recruiting aspect on a high school guy?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think obviously everyone knows you got to have the requisite level of, positional size, athleticism, length, skill, right? And that's all. We all can see that, or there's different type of players, and those are very specific. I mean, you can look at guys' stats and see, there's a lot of metrics out there. Maybe not as many in high school as there is in college now to evaluate the numbers. You certainly can go look at a guy's size and all those things, but I think maybe what we're getting at here is more the intangible things, the things that. Yeah. So, I think a couple things. Obviously, you want to see a guy who plays with a big motor, right? And then some of that is, I think, defining that for guys, the way you run the floor, the way you get to a loose ball, the effort you give to crash for offensive rebound, the effort you give to block out, the effort you give to get in a stance, the effort you give to, sprint to space when you don't have the ball, the effort, how good are you at getting into the paint with the ball, right? It's really, really important. That motor piece. Yeah. Right? Or do you settle? Obviously shooting is so important, right? If you cannot shoot, you cannot play, right? But again, those are the obvious. Those are the obvious things, right? I think the other thing is, to me, emotional stability is really important in this day and age.
Okay. Explain that a little bit.
Yeah, I would just say, and again, I think that we're all products of social media and our phones and the things that are going on in the world, and we see everybody go on vacation and they're having a better vacation than we are and whatever. I find that in this guys are sad more. Right? When a shot doesn't go in, or a playing time thing or whatever, the pressures that come from home, the pressures that come from the world we live in, social media, all these things. And so, it's not that you can't. We want to help guys, right? We have sports psychologists. We have people to help them with dealing with performance-related issues, obviously. And then we also understand that there are things that are going on in people's lives that you need other levels of support for their mental health and things like that. But I think to get better, which is we all have to get better. I mean, there's no guy that walks into this program, or really any program in the country, and doesn't need to learn and get better. In order to do that, you got to have a certain level of emotional stability to know, hey, there's going to be some days where I'm not doing things great, or I don't get this, or I don't understand this, or somebody else gets something more than I get that day, or I get, maybe someone calls me out in front of the team or whatever. So, being an everyday guy with your work and then with your emotions, I think is so important. And those are the guys that you turn around and then you look back and they're better. You almost it just happens. The guys that are this way, up and down all the time, moody, we spend so much time trying to help them with that they actually can't get
better.
Yeah. And so, and I tell the guys, and I think this is a Coach L thing, it might be, you can't think about, you can only think of one of these things at a time.
Right.
Playing time and playing well.
Right.
So you choose, right? You can think about playing time, but you probably can't play well, right? And if you think about playing well, you can't really be thinking about playing time. There's no way to do both. I've never seen somebody get better and play well while they're also thinking about playing time.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
You know, and so those are some of the things that we try to look for. I think it's harder, obviously, because a guy's in this high school environment and he may be the best player, so he hasn't faced some of those things yet. And we all know, as you guys know, you're college players, like, you're going to face that. It's going to happen. Even more so now in this world where you have 22, 23, 24-year-old men. You know, I've had guys come in at 18 years old, and I'm a believer, like, look, the guys that are 17 their whole senior year, those early birth, like, they're going to be so much better as they get, like, they're the ones that'll take the jump, and we've had a number of them. But now you got to tell them, hey, by the way, like, there's a guy on our team that's 6 years older than you.
Right.
Like, you need to go explain to your parents that it's going to be very hard to beat this guy out right now. Just like when you're 24 and you're playing in Europe or something, or you're playing the NBA, like we were talking about earlier, no 18-year-old guy is going to, like, beat you out unless he's Luka Doncic, or unless he's Cooper Flagg, and, you know, those guys, Kevin Durant, yeah, sure. But most of the guys that are 18, even if they're really good players, it's going to take some time. And college basketball now has just gotten older and older. I mean, last year was the oldest year ever because of the COVID year.
Right. And it's funny. I always say the A10 is I don't want to call it a pit stop, but in a way, right, there's a stat that goes out about the ESPN top 100 players. And, you know, they're going to these Power 5 schools, but they're only getting like 10 to 15 minutes a game, and they're struggling, where you can take a step, go to A10, you know, develop, learn, right? It's transactional in a way, but sometimes when you go up too high, you know, you kind of devalue your market in a way, you know. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Look, what I would, and I understand, like, what I would tell you is I don't think there's much difference from what we need to be successful here and what we needed to be successful at Miami. I mean, the margins are, I mean, there are some guys, I get it. You know, we had a couple 1-and-dones and 2-and-dones at Miami. Obviously, the league at the time had so many of them. Right. You know, Duke has so many of them every year, what have you. But, you know, like, Dayton beat Marquette this year at home. Dayton beat UConn in Hawaii. You know, obviously everyone knows how good those programs are, how good those coaches are, how good those teams are. They're the best in the country. You know, we beat Dayton here by 20 points, and we finished 7th in the league, and one of our best players didn't play a game this season. So I think that, you know, the conundrum for everybody is, like, you kind of have to be at that level. You know, to be the type of team that you need to be in this league, you got to be darn close, you know, to that good. And so how you get there, it may be the path may not be as clear as it once was. You know, one of the things at Miami, we sat guys out a lot to get older and better. There was no sitting anybody out anymore.
Right.
I was talking with my guys today. I said, hey, do you think there's anybody who, if I said to them, like, hey, man, like, when you become a junior, you're gonna be really good here.
I'm out of here.
They you know, they're like, I gotta go to the bathroom, and then you never see them again. You know what I mean? Like, in the recruiting process. But it's the reality. But again, and I've got guys on my staff that all played. We all played. Like, you know, I'm sure Dwayne Lee on my staff played at St. Joe's when they were number 1 in the country. Played with, you know, Jameer and Delonte. Well, you know, he waited 3 years to play. You know, and then when he played, he was good. He was all-league defender, and their team was good and all that stuff. And but we talk about it all the time. He's like, you know, no one's doing that now. No. You know, I had, you know, I want to give Christian Jones on our team some credit. Like, he came in as a freshman, was 170 pounds, and we had 2 scrimmages, and, you know, just physically couldn't compete.
Right.
And so, you know, I said to him, listen, you had James Bishop was a senior, knew he was going to play X amount of minutes. It's probably better for me to have you available, but it's better for you to redshirt. And at first he was, you know, I'm not sure or whatever. And, you know, credit to his mom. His brother's a Division II college coach. And they we all got together with it and said, like, what do you think? Yes. He sat. He got better. He gained 20 pounds. He's on the all-rookie team. He led our league in steals. He's like 5th in assists. Like, he had a hell of a freshman year. Yeah. I don't think that would have been possible the first year, just physically. And then he would have come in the office and said, well, I didn't play. I got to go. it's not the best way to go about thinking about your career, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that's the world we're in. And by the way, it doesn't start with us. It starts
at home
in AAU. Like high school, I mean, we pay absolutely no attention to what goes on the first AAU weekend because the teams will be different by the time we see them in July.
Ooh,
you know, I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying, like, you know, back in the day, it was like, yo, if you played with DC Assault, and you played, there was no commingling. You knew it was going to be on their team.
Yeah.
You know, you knew it was going to be on the Blue Devils back in the day. You knew it was on Baltimore Select. Like, you didn't have to, like, go check.
Right. Now you be like,
he's there. He's there. Yeah.
Yeah. Facts.
So, Coach, I'm really curious. Like, with so much noise, like from the kids coming in and coming out, like you just talked about the mental healthness of some of the athletes. How do you keep a strong locker room?
Yeah.
Like, how do you keep the guys together, everybody really locking in on one mission?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you got to really, I hate to say it this way, but preach it every day. And I know everybody says that, but I really think you got to, like, really reward it, hammer it home, message it as much as humanly possible. More so than almost anything else. And there's no guarantee you're going to be successful with it, but I think you got to give that, you got to give it a try, And look, the great thing about sports in general, basketball for sure, we've all been a part of those teams where everyone was going the same way together. Nobody cared. We got that type of team. And there's very few things in life that are more rewarding or fun than that environment.
Yeah.
And so we're all trying to find that, whether you win 21 games like we did, or 27 games, or 25 games, or 18 games. I've had teams that I've been a part of that maybe didn't win as many games, but man, it was fun because the group was kind of doing this together. And yeah, you're going to go through things, but there's also some, nothing less fun than being around the group that's,
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. You forgot your next question.
No. So, Coach, let's say we have young man, young woman, very enthusiastic, really wants to get into the coaching game. Like, what kind of advice would you give them in this climate? Because it's totally different from.
First, I'd say go to the doctor, get your head checked out. I'm just kidding. No, listen, it's still a great, it's a great job. It's a tough profession. If you got to really want to be around and serve people. And I say this from a place of, look, like we're coaches make a lot more money than they ever have at all levels of college basketball, professional basketball, and stuff. Certainly a job, certainly a hard, profession to be in that sense. But ultimately, I think, like, you got to want to help other people. You got to want to serve the players. If you get into it because you think that there's going to be material benefits for you, like, ultimately, it's a little bit like hitting the lottery on that. There's guys that are great high school coaches. There are guys that are great junior college coaches, Division II coaches. There's great assistant coaches that can't keep their job because they get fired. There's great, guys that are great college coaches that don't make a lot of money and they got fired or what have you. They can't stay in the business. So it's a difficult profession, but I think if you love the game and you love helping people, that's where it should start. And you look for that as you're trying to find a staff, and then understand there's going to be some sacrifices. Like most, this is not Goldman Sachs, right? You're not getting started with, company card and, six-figure salary, out of college. I mean, most of us are going to make big sacrifices to see if they can make it work. And, I tell the guys that I work with, like, Coach L used to tell me this all the time, like, the guys that you get started with when you're 21, 22 years old, that you're friendly with, that you work in camps with, you might coach AU with, all that high school with, what have you. Like, but if you're still in this in your 40s, you're going to look up and there's going to be very few of those guys left. Just a reality,
Yeah.
And so you got to do it, I think, for the right reasons, right, which is to serve and help people.
Great answer.
Okay. So, definitely some of the big news now. We they had the settlement with the I think it was about $2.8 billion.
Yeah. You guys gonna get a piece of that? No, you're too old.
Too old, right? I wish they would bring it back to 03.
Facts. We need to
I got a couple of my Miami guys calling me like, hey, where do I get this money? When am I gonna get it? I was like, hey man, you gotta go online. You gotta plug your number in.
Yeah, right. So I think it was from 16 to
I think it's
24.
16, yeah.
So how you feel about that?
Yeah, look, I'm all for the guys getting paid. It's long overdue. What I think we got to, and this is what's complex about this, is look, it was illegal not to pay them, or it was illegal not to allow name, image, and likeness. Right? The courts have decided that. The settlement makes a lot of sense to me, but it's short of employment. And if we were to look, the guys that are all making a lot of money this year, I think if we told them, hey, you're employees now, I'm not so sure that they'd want to do it. I think they'd probably like the way it works right now. You're getting paid like as an independent contractor or whatever. So I don't, and again, okay, what does that mean in terms of healthcare? What does that mean in terms of labor practices? What does that mean in terms of, can you fire somebody? How does that work? Okay, even further down the road, how does that affect Title IX? How does that affect the other sports? How does it affect Division II and Division III players? How does it affect people at schools that can't, below major schools that are, they've been putting people in college and getting them college degrees for many, many, many years, and now are they going to be told, hey, you have to pay these people? Like, well, we don't have the money. Screw it. We're not going to do it. It's not going to do anything. We'll go to Division III. I mean, you see St. Francis, PA, so they go to the NCAA and say, we just can't afford to do this institutionally. Wow. We're going to Division III. So there's a lot of questions. I know, Congress, there's been conversations. We don't, we live in this era. We understand like that stuff doesn't happen very quickly.
Right.
There, no one can really agree on anything there. The settlement, I think, is a step in the right direction. And, but I think there's more to come, as to figure all this out and what it will actually look like. And the concern is like you want to make it sustainable for everybody, so that we're not losing opportunities somewhere.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, what would you think? Do you think there should be any type of regulations going on with it? Because you said like
I think the problem is they're not employees, so in order to have regulations or cap or whatever, like there's a cap in many sports.
Right.
And, you need collective bargaining for that. You need a union for that. You need, so I don't know the answer. I don't have a good answer to that. But you also can't tell people how much money they can make in this country unless you have collective bargaining. So you can't just say, people who tell me, they got a cap in. Like, no, they don't. Like, unless both parties are at the table and say, no, we're going to do a collective bargaining agreement like in the NBA, you can't just say, this is how much it can be.
Okay. Next question.
And I'm not a lawyer, by the way, so some lawyers might check me on this.
This is not financial advice. So let me ask you this, right? Without putting any numbers on it, right? Yeah. When you're recruiting a player, like, how do you put a value as far as like, what are you going to pay this guy?
Yeah, hard to do. Again, the market is the market. This is an open market, so there's no, that's one of the things about, like in the NBA. Everyone thinks those guys, they're all making so much money, and they are. But like you know what an all NBA player looks, how much he costs,
right?
Because you can just look at the all NBA. You know what their salaries are. You kind of know what the range is. Right. Same thing. Hey, you know what a backup center generally costs. You know what a backup point guard costs. You know what an all-star costs, what have you. And there's a cap, and then you know what you'd have to pay if you went over the cap at the first apron, the second. In our market, it's unfettered. It's just, you say, I'm going to give you $50. You go, no, I want you to give me $50,000. You're like, how did we get there? We started at 50. So.
It's all a negotiation.
Yeah, and it's it's a moving target. You know, I think it's a moving target. You know, and
because it's so interesting, right? Let's say you're gonna pay a guy $100,000, right? And he's not performing at $100,000 level. Like, how do you put the optics on that? You know?
Yeah. Look, I think you can't. You can't. I think it's hard. I understand it's easy to look at it that way, but ultimately, at the end of the day, like, it's just a number. Okay. Whatever the numbers are, once they're here, it's just about performance. It's about behavior. It's about all that stuff. Like, I don't think you can look at it and say, well, hey, we're paying this guy $20 and this guy $15, so the $20 guy gets more run or whatever. Like, I don't think that's a good way either. Now, in the NBA, like, if you pick a guy with the second pick and he's going to make this amount of money, and you passed on somebody who is the ninth pick, who's a much better player, I mean, that's not, you're going to get judged by that. Yeah, we're all going to be judged by that. Yeah. But it's it's a strange market. The settlement might settle it, for lack of a better term, to some degree, but we won't know until next year. What Deloitte does with how they evaluate these other deals, the football schools versus the non-football schools, it's hard to predict.
And then when all this going on now you have the agents coming in, right? So how is that then, as far as you have to deal with the agents? Like, do you think it's even necessary?
Look, I've always had good relationships with people in that world. I think my time in Miami and being the ACC, and also Miami's kind of a hub for agents. A lot of agents there, so I know a lot of guys, a lot of great people in that world. There's a lot of people who are just getting started, who don't have as much experience. Obviously, this is a new market for agents. Right. Like, it used to be the only way you could ever make money off a player as an agent were either they were a really, really successful NBA player, where or you built out a great client base of highly successful, durable, long-term European players. Well, now, I mean, you could care less. Some of these guys could care less of what happens after college. In a 4-year span in college, they can make quite a bit of money. So it attracts all sorts of new people. But yeah, I think, look, we all have representation. Coaches have agents. Schools have lawyers. They have, office of general counsel. Everybody's, you have an accountant. You have people that are, you get in trouble. You have to have a lawyer. Right. You have a real estate agent. So especially the numbers that some of the people are dealing in, especially for people whose families maybe haven't seen these type of numbers, maybe it may never. Again, I think there is probably something you want to have some support there and some expertise there. So I don't begrudge anybody. I mean, I think you want to make sure that you're dealing with reputable people that are going to do the right by the kid and be honest at the very least. That's important.
Is there any way that y'all can get to the point where, let's just say, you guys were in a bidding war with, call it, South Florida. I don't know. I didn't want to throw somebody in your conference, right? And you guys offer somebody $150, and South Florida says that they're offering them $250. But, like, is there any way that you would actually know if that is a right number?
Well, I think
dealing with an agent.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You would hope that the relationships are there and that people are acting in good faith. In those conversations.
That's tough with money involved.
Yeah, of course. I mean, listen, you're just gonna have some people who don't. I think your reputation in this business is really important. Yeah. So if you want to, if you're an agent and you want to get a little funny on something like that, it's not gonna last. You won't last long. Yeah. You might make a few more bucks or whatever in this particular case. But ultimately, over time, we all know what's happening, and eventually, I kind of think your reputation's so important, that you have to try to do the best you can to be as acting in good faith. That's and there are by the way, there in most states, as it relates to professional agents, there's laws as it relates to, there's state laws about agents and how they can work and what they do and what an agreement looks like and all that stuff. So I think there's some talk on Congress too about maybe doing some of that, of trying to standardize some. I think the football guys are really dealing with the agents on a level where they feel like, hey, we need some uniformity in terms of like what the contracts might look like, and so we'll see. Yeah. Football, whatever they do, we'll follow behind and probably do similar things.
Okay. So one thing I do commend you about, you guys play freshmen.
Yeah,
right?
We played some. Yep.
And so right now, we kind of talked offline about, if you got a player who's 22, 23,
yeah,
and then you got a kid that's 18, you know what I mean, with this transfer portal, like, I guess talk about the effects of the transfer portal and how that has changed just the landscape of, how you go about it.
Well, it's funny. It's almost like we need to readjust our thought process on when we were younger and playing in school. I'm sure you guys, when you got to Niagara, you're like, yeah, look, I think I'm really good and I'd love to get playing time. But back then it was like, no, it was most freshmen, they were going to have to wait a little bit. And then that changed somehow. And I'll blame social media a little bit.
Okay.
Even though we're going to be on social media here, but there's good and bad, right?
Yeah.
That changed, and there's a lot of people, to me, many times it's people with no context, right?
Expectations
the expectations and are out of control or unrealistic or not enough context to understand, anybody who played the game knows when you're 23, you're a lot better than you were when you were 18. And if we've got good enough players in the program, hey, those guys probably should be better. That doesn't mean, again, I've had 3 years. I've had one rookie of the year and 2 guys in all rookie teams. So we've played freshmen, and we'll continue. We'll play the best players, and we look to develop players and give them a chance and bring them along and give them opportunities. But if expectations. If your expectations are 35 minutes and 15 shots, and this is high school, and I went from senior year in high school to it's going to be the same, well, that's unrealistic for most.
Yeah.
For most. I mean, Coach Lonnie Walker is a one and done. He didn't start till like the 10th game of the season.
That is right.
I coached Shane Larkin. He didn't start till freshman year. I don't know, halfway through the season. But then those guys, multimillionaires playing, and they kind of stayed the course.
Yeah. So, Coach, tell me so beyond wins and losses, what does success look like for you here at GW?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the number one thing is we're judged on wins and losses. We understand that, right? We understand that, and the idea to win championships, to play in the postseason here, to be in the NCAA tournament here is really important. I think on a broader sense, because that's the question you asked, was, we've used our job is to unite and inspire the community, and we're really like a community asset for the institution. Especially in this day and age when on college campuses the price of every school is getting more expensive. It's getting more challenging. Not at a place like GW where we have we're very selective. We have great enrollment and things like that. But even still, the experience that the students get, right? We feel like we can be a big part of that. Right, and it's not, you're not just paying for, going to a classroom or being near the Lincoln Memorial or being in DC, but you're paying for an experience where part of that is an athletic program, a basketball program, that it's fun to go to the games. It's on television. It's something that brings our community together, our alums. Are the people on campus, the people who work at the hospital, like ultimately at our best, that's what we're going to be here. And, we're working towards that. And it was like that at times here. And it's our job to sort of bring that back.
Okay. So we did something pretty new, right? Where we basically asked our followers, what's a question you want to ask the coach, right?
Good.
And the question was with I guess what I want to say, guys from overseas are coming and playing in college now, right? And the question is, why are they favored more than maybe a younger high school player? And what is the jazz around that?
It's a good question. I would say, and it's funny, GW, Coach Jarvis was here. He was one of the first to really do it. They really had it going internationally.
Right.
Gonzaga was one of those programs early on, obviously. I think a couple things happened. First, I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago, they allowed college coaches to go to the international events.
Okay.
Right, to sit there and watch this. So you became, the world got smaller, a little bit more connected to players overseas. It's a big market because you have many countries, not one country. Certainly, many front court players, right?
Right.
It's
skilled ones too.
Yeah, they're skilled front court players. The game has gotten more skilled. Obviously, the players there are more skilled in many aspects. Although I do think the players in the United States are skilled. I think they play less. They play basketball less. They work out more than they play. So yeah, I just think it's like another market where there was a time when people felt like, hey, this is untapped. I can go, instead of going sitting at DeMatha and 50 of us are fighting for the same player, I can go to Europe and maybe have a little less traffic to get a really good player.
Yeah.
But now it's saturated too, right? I mean, there's players from, especially because of the money, and the European agents know, hey, they can get money here at a younger age. That's the other side of it, right? It's just more competition. It's the same competition that we've talked about. Everyone's talked about, the NBA's had 7 straight foreign MVPs, and people talk about in the draft, hey, you want to play in the NBA, you got to compete against guys overseas. Well, now it's
what's the European market? You said that it was a point where you were allowed to go out there.
Yeah, I think remember about 10 years ago, you were able to go to the events, the international competition. So now you're not just going off like what somebody would tell you or watching some film. You could go physically see those people. You could build relationships with the agents there, with the clubs there, and now the European agents know that there's money here for those guys at a young age, and it's actually becoming a little bit more saturated. Like everyone's doing it now. I'm sure, might have been just Gonzaga back in the day at those events, and now everybody's there now. So it's competition, and for our domestic players, I think people have talked a lot about 7 straight MVPs out of the United States, and hey man, the NBA, you got to compete against the world. Well, now that's actually come to college. You got to compete against the world for scholarships.
Do you think that they're more, I guess, their development system is different? So the reason why I say that is because in America, I feel like we are very highlight driven, right?
Yeah.
And over there, I feel like they are not, and there's some more intangibles.
Yeah,
to
I don't
like,
want to put a blanket on that because I think there's guys here that are super skilled. What I will say is, ours is the only one that's tethered to academics. And so it makes it a little bit more complicated. But look, I think at the end of the day, the one thing I'll say is their coaches over there go through a pretty strict training.
Yeah.
Like to become a coach there, I don't think they're doing it with like dads and stuff like that. And listen, I mean, God bless parents that are doing this stuff for their kids and all that stuff, but like you got to get like certified to coach over there. You're gonna go get like real coach training, and I think that there's some talk in this country to move towards this in some way. But the United States still has great players. We're still the best in the world, even though it's getting closer. Our best is really, really, really good. What we're probably missing is what we did when we were young, which is played outside.
Yeah,
which I did all the time. I mean, like there was no. I mean, I always joke about the. God rest her soul. I know Mabel Marbury passed away yesterday, but I mean, I can't help but laugh every time. I don't know if you guys seen the clip of Stephon Marbury said, "Hey, if I told my mother that I needed a trainer, she would have pointed to like the park in the hood, like that's your trainer right there, like
right.
And obviously he was pretty skilled,
right.
So, and again, I believe in training too because I think there's things that you can. But I think you got to do it all, and we're probably missing a little bit of the playing outside stuff. I think that was good. I was learning how to compete. You don't get judged on how hard you work. You get judged on how hard you compete.
Yeah.
And working hard is really important.
Yeah.
on your game, and we all did it. But understand, like I always tell our guys, like hey, if you're not running the floor hard, no, you can't go to like the NBA scout and say, yeah, but I worked out my trainer like 3 times this morning. like you just don't play hard. Like it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So you don't get judged on that work. The work should then show up on the court and your skill and all that stuff. But like if you don't play hard, like nobody cares what you're doing with your trainer.
Right.
You know?
That's facts.
Mm-hmm.
I know another question that the fans, the audience had. So they was wanting to know about collective and NIL, as far as the powers, whoever that's funding the money, right? They say, does that put a lot of pressure on you as a coach to actually win?
I think it did. Well, no, at least for me it didn't. But I think one of the things about the House settlements for the last 3 years, the collectives were outside of the university,
right,
and outside of the university's fundraising mechanism. So many schools, and even the big football schools, like even they're gonna let's say Ohio State is making $200 million a year. It's the most valuable franchise because of all the fans and football and all the stuff and the TV money, all that stuff. And then they're raising, because it's a large state institution, one of the biggest in the country, they're raising X amount of dollars throughout the years, on top of that in terms of philanthropy. Well, they needed to either divert that philanthropy money into the collective or divert other funds, or ask their people, hey, I know you've been giving me $50,000 a year. I need to give me $100,000, but 50 of it needs to go to a collective. Or they needed to go find new people who were never giving. Right. And I had a friend of mine tell me one time who's made a lot of money, and he said, like, hey, this guy, I'm very close to this coach, and he really helped me in my career, and I have enough money now. And so if he asked me for this money, I would give it to him because he did a lot for me. And if he asked me for the money the second year, I would give it to him again. But I'd probably ask him, like, yo, are we doing this every year? Like, just, I'll give it to you again, but like, is this what we're going to do every year?
What's
Like,
the expectations of this thing?
Well, it's just, I think there is some level of donor fatigue.
Yeah.
That term is real.
Right.
Where I think, when people say, well, it's like a professional franchise. No, NBA franchises have, the valuations of those things have gone 10x.
Right.
Michael Jordan paid $250 and sold it for $3 billion.
Right.
In however many years, I don't know, 12 years he had it or something like that, maybe a little bit longer. A lot of times, like, there's no return.
Right. That's what I'm trying to understand.
So people are doing it because they love their school, or they love the coach, or they, whatever it is, love the program. But eventually, like, you're either going to have a return, or you're going to do philanthropy, which now, hey, you're going to give money to the school and you're going to get a tax deduction for that. So, I think sometimes the players are like, well, can't you just get me $50,000 more? Can't you just get me, it's like, no, like, it means I have to go find some guy to do this. And it's like, I don't know how many people that just can go drop off 50 grand. Like, but like, it's not that easy.
No.
Even at the highest levels, right? It's not that easy. So.
No, I feel that. I feel that. So let me ask you this. We're closing this out. Handling success.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody wants to get to the point of being successful, right? But once you get there, maintaining it is a different animal. You know what I mean? Like, speak on how you would help players or parents handle success.
Yeah, I mean, it's you don't want to trust success, if you want any sort of long-standing career in anything. I don't think it's you're either getting better or you're getting worse. You're never really staying the same. It's not a destination, right? It's not like a Nike thing. Like, it's not a destination. I think it's but it's hard, especially now, I think, with some young people, where they're going to get a lot early, and understanding that, hey, if you want it, it's really about the, people say it's about the process, but hey, like, for coaches, I think we love coaching. If we have success, we get to keep our jobs. If we have some success, it doesn't mean, like, I'm going to stop working at it, because what I want to do most is continue to do it. And it's the same thing with playing, I think. And they attract different things, right? But I tell the players all the time, and it's the Nick Saban rat poison thing. It's like, listen, especially with what you read about yourself. Like if you're not playing good, and people are saying things to you, or you're reading something, or see something on Twitter or whatever, like, yeah, that's poison. Like you take that in, it'll kill you. It's the same thing with success. Like you have a good game, or you have a couple of good games, or you win Rookie of the Week, or Player of the Week, or whatever, and all of a sudden people around you are saying great stuff, and they're putting it on the internet, and you're looking at that stuff, and you're taking that too. Like that's the same. It's a different strand, but it's the same poison pill.
Yeah,
that'll
100%.
kill you. Like So the idea that you're never too high or too low, or never as bad or as good as you think you are, usually is right.
Okay. That was a great answer. Did you have any other questions for him?
No, that was it.
Was there anything
right,
that you wanted to cover
I'm
that
great.
we did?
Hey, listen, I appreciate you guys doing this. As you guys know, basketball means so much to everybody in this area.
Yeah.
It was one of the things when I came here 25 years ago, what have you. New York guy, love New York basketball and all that, but you could feel how important it was to everybody in this community. And we were talking a little bit too, like, hey, we feel like we're gonna keep getting better. Mason had a great year. Maryland had a great year. I think Georgetown's getting better, and Howard's doing great. American went to the NCAA tournament. Like the teams in the area. When I was here the last time, back in Mason days, we went to the Final Four. Georgetown went to the Final Four. Maryland won the national championship. American was in the NCAA tournament. All right, GW was in the NCAA tournament, top 10 in the country. So we can do that again here, and we can do it for a long time. It can be sustained, And high school basketball is important here. College basketball is important here. I think our NBA franchise is on the right track. It's going to take some time there because that's what it takes in that league. But I think they got good people in there, and we're excited to be a part of it.
Okay. So I would love for you guys to get to the point where all of y'all play each other again.
We're like the old BB&T.
Yeah, that would be
we'd
nice.
Be down. We're playing American this year. Obviously, we played Mason twice. We'd love to take part in something.
Sponsors. Hey, when we reach out, let's get this going, man. Let's get this going. Well,
awesome.
It was
Thanks,
a pleasure.
Guys. Appreciate
having you on here, man.
So much.
Awesome.
We wish you much success during the year. Definitely
get you out. Get you out.
Yes. We'll definitely come to a few games. I feel like now that you've been on the show, I can't wear. I gotta stay neutral.
Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll just wear a game-related shirt instead of
that's fine.
maybe an A10 shirt.
Yeah,
just an A10 shirt, But man, that's it on our end, man. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, and share.
All right.
And please always stay game related.